was asked to give some simple definitions. And I wrote an article with a colleague, Deirdre Cligita, who actually introduced me to the concept of third spaces. She's an educational researcher. I was just doing the practice of creating third spaces without actually knowing that it had some theory behind it. But here is a quick Venn diagram. We created an article we wrote together called Stepping In and Stepping Out. And it describes the third space. So students as partners, co-teachers, co-inquirers, curriculum co-creators, co-learners. And in our context, it's completely transdisciplinary. So it deals with complexity, real world challenges, multiple knowledges, lots of collaboration, mutual learning that comes out of that. And the third space in education, the theory is that it transcends institutional boundaries. I was just calling it a porous space before. It brings people together with diverse roles, and it's got this very holistic notion of academic practice. So it's got that holism, or what I call holiness, kind of, it's got that lovely completeness about it. Here are some of the qualities that I describe to third spaces. So the first idea is the idea of liminality. Liminality is a concept that first came from anthropology. It came from people like Victor Turner. And he talked about liminality in the context of tribal societies that have initiation. So liminality is when you go from one state to another. So it's really about going to a state of unknowing, if you like. For me, third spaces are radically inclusive. So they have students as partners, but there's this real equality of learners. There's been lots written about students learning from industry partners, but what about industry partners learning from students? We have that happening in our classroom and beyond. It's got this idea of porosity. Like I said, I called it porosity. I always said I wanted to create a completely porous space for industry, community, and government partners. And this is well beyond the idea of classroom with no walls, because the classroom, actually, you're learning in completely different ways as well. There is no classroom as such. The learner makes sense of everything. And one thing about transdisciplinary work that I find really interesting is built into our manifesto with the BCII. And that is the idea that no student graduates the same. So there's lots of sense making happening in the system. Feedback loops. This is an innovation ecosystem. So we have industry partners in there. We have our students in there. We have our alumni who become industry partners, and so on. It's a transdisciplinary and very creative space. Transdisciplinarity is always creative. It has to be, because you cannot predict when 2 disciplines or more, 3, 4, 5 disciplines come together, or students from many different epistemologies like being and background come together, what is going to happen. So we have the dinner party metaphor from the United Nations. UNESCO came up with this idea for transdisciplinarity, where multidisciplinarity was a dinner party where, or a banquet where people bring a potluck and it's a mishmash and it doesn't really work together. And interdisciplinarity might be, okay, we'll do Mexican, you bring the guacamole and someone else brings the beans and so on. Whereas transdisciplinarity is the idea of people getting together, cooking together, deciding who they're going to invite and making those stakeholders welcome, and doing the whole thing collaboratively. Another quality for third space for me is this centrality of being, not just knowing. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. It's also it's about going into the unknown or uncertainty and feeling okay with that and managing your own feelings in that space. It's about active learning, often, problem-based learning. It's often about tackling big challenges that require people to think in very complex ways and to invite disciplines in. It's about really open briefs, and we've designed so many open briefs that allow people to bring in their passions because the world is more open, dynamic, and complex than it ever was. And our problems too are networked together. So looking at it from just one challenge perspective or one disciplinary perspective isn't enough.